So, hi everybody. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Ophir Gutelson, co-founder at Unacceptable, based in Palo Alto, California. And today is we have very special guests, Merav and Amir, that I'll introduce really soon. I want to give you a quick, just a second, a quick update about a couple of things that are happening in Israel right now as we speak. It's again, every day is becoming crazier and crazier, but we are fighting to make a change. Um, so we are approaching day 700 of the war. Last weekend, on the weekend, the IDF is able to bring back the bodies of the hostages, Ilan Weiss and Idan Shtivi, have been recovered. Meanwhile, we are mourning the 900 fallen soldier, Sergeant Ariel Lubliner, at the same time. At the same time, the threats loom over our democracy. The Attorney General is still in place. Yesterday, there was a win from the Supreme Court of 9-0, but on the other side, the government is still pushing to create a judicial crisis. And we are not going to cover that today, even though everything is connected to everything. But again, other than that, the war in Gaza is keep going. Every day we see more and more innocent Palestinians being killed. We have 20 hostages known to be alive in Gaza, together with another 28 that we want to bring back home, a total of 48. I mean, Merav and Amir will talk more about that. So let's jump quickly into what's happening and covering the topic that we want to cover today. And I want to introduce quickly, I mean, the run of show of discussion will be that Amir will present 10 minutes and then Merav will present, and then we'll open to the Q&A that you can put now at the slider. So Amir, so we have today with us Dr. Amir Blumenfeld, who is the co-founder of BOW, which is translated to come together, I think. BOW, come with us. Amir is an IDF Lieutenant Colonel, Reserve IDF Lieutenant Colonel, former head of Trauma Branch, IDF Medical Corps, and member of the Hostage and Missing Family Forum. And we have also Professor Merav Roth, psychoanalyst, associate professor in University of Haifa, and the founder and the director of FLM, which is the First Line Med, and a key team member at BOW. So let's add Merav and Asaf to the spotlight. Here is Merav, and here is Amir. Okay. Amir, the stage is yours. Thank you for being with us. I hope everyone can hear you. And again, remember, for those of you who joined, switch to the Spanish channel in order to hear the translation. Amir, the stage is yours.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Okay, 1 minute. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for inviting me, and I'm truly grateful for you that you are here tonight, dedicating your time for this important matter. My name is Amir Blumenfeld, and I was trained as a pediatric surgeon and also served in the Israeli army as the head of the trauma branch in the IDF. In that role, I was asked to prepare two unique medical reports, one about Gilad Shalit and the other one about the two kidnapped soldiers by Hezbollah, Golbosser and Regev. In both cases, my team and I had to determine whether their medical condition, without any seeing them or checking them, only through forensic evidence and video footage. Our assessment proved accurate eventually. Gilad survived, but sadly Goldstein and Regev did not. This experience is what brought me after October 7 to join the Hostages and Missing Families Forum and help analyze the videos released by Hamas. 1 minute. Okay, let's see what happened. Okay. On October 7, it was Shabbat, as you all remember, Simchat Torah, 6:29 a.m. Hamas launched a massive attack on Israel. Around 4,500 missiles were launched, followed by about 6,000 terrorists to cross the Israeli border into town settlements and military bases all around the fence. Near Kibbutz Re'im, they found a music festival where 4,000 young people were celebrating the Nova Festival. They were attacked, the celebrators, murdered, raped, injured, and kidnapped to Gaza. Total chaos followed and lasted for about 3 weeks. And by the end of these 3 weeks, I think that we concluded and understood that 251 people had been taken hostage in Gaza, men, women, children, and elderly. Since then, some have returned through agreements and military operations, and some are tragically as diseased bodies. Today, 40 hostages remain in Gaza. The most realistic way to bring them home, as you can tell by this graph, is obviously by having an agreement and just bringing them home. That's the only confident way to bring them home as soon as possible. What's living in a tunnel? The hostages are held in tunnels, as you all know, which are dark, enclosed spaces with almost no fresh air, no hygiene, very little food and water, and constant danger of collapse due to Air Force attacks. I think that the best demonstration of this thing is hearing what Matan Tzangaoke, one of the hostages, says in a video released by the Hamas. And let's listen to him.
אנחנו חיים בחוסר מזון, חוסר שתייה, חוסר תרופות. חיים עם חולדות, מגבישים וחיות אחרות. חוסר בהיגיינה משפיע עלינו קשות. אנחנו נמצאים עם מחלות עור, מקסקסים. אין לנו סבון.
All what he said is written down there on the right, writing over here. And I think that you all know and aware of what's going over there. And this is not the kind of mystery nor a surprise to you. Now, what happens medically to these people? Prolonged captivity in these conditions harms every system in the human body. The immune system is hurt, the sleep and circadian rhythm are hurt, heart, lungs, muscles, digestive system, the hormonal system, the nervous system, everything is harmed just by staying in a tunnel. But this is not the whole story. Added to this, we need to talk about the trauma of all kinds, the physical, sexual, and psychological one, the abuse that these people are going through, the chronic illnesses that are not being treated, and the despair these people have. And this is just for the physiological one. Psychologically, obviously, people are damaged in severe anxiety, depression, and already have like signs of PTSD. The greatest danger, in my opinion, is loss of hope, and I'm sure that Merav is going to talk about it in a little while. We don't need to talk about. We don't need to talk much about it because, as you can see in those pictures, after nearly 500 days, look at those people in the before and the after footage. You all saw that, you all witnessed that, and you all can understand that this is not just externally. The internal organs, the internal systems are damaged in the same way. These people came back thin, sick, broken body and spirit. They are now in rehabilitation, but true recovery is impossible unless the remaining hostages are released. Currently in Gaza, there are 48 hostages. 26 are believed to be dead according to the intelligence, while 22 are believed to be alive, but we have signs of life, confirmed signs of life, for only 19 of those. All of them are facing constant risk and are in danger. As you can tell about the living hostages or supposed living hostages, which 19 already have signs, just have signs of life, they all suffer. They suffer from injuries, they suffer from diseases, they suffer from hunger. You saw the footage of Eviatar David and Ron Braslavsky 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks, and you all understand that the condition is risky and they are all in danger and their life may be terminated like every day. We published a kind of report from the missing, from the Hostages Forum, and we described each and every one by his state. It was on April and on May, I believe. And you can read this report. It's in English and Hebrew as well. And you can tell that they all suffer from injuries, from diseases, from psychological damage. This report was assembled by the intelligence and by those who returned and reported about these people. I have here 3 examples. I wouldn't like to go into details because the time is short, but you totally understand that the situation is grave and we need to bring them back as soon as possible. On June 2024, the New York Times published an article where he stated that 41 hostages died in captivity, and this is documented in the article. There are multiple reasons of their death, and most of them are not known. We now believe that there are more that died, taken hostages alive and died while in captivity. And we would like to designate this kind of death as preventable. Preventable death is the one that you could prevent if only you provided the right steps at the right time. But this never happened. On the right-hand side, you can see a picture from a funeral. I'm sure that you all saw this funeral. It's the Bibas mother, Shiri, and her 2 kids, Ariel and Kfir. You can see the orange balloons over there, where many people were standing and trying to put the support or provide the support to the family. But we all know that on November 2023, Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir are still alive. And I wonder if you could save their lives, and this is very devastating fact that we all need to face. In any case, every death that is going to occur from now on is going to be a preventable one, and we need to prevent it. And there's only one way to prevent this death: by bringing all of them home as soon as possible and starting their rehabilitation and recovery. The dead hostages in Gaza are in danger as well. Their bodies may disappear due to many, many reasons. You can read it on the screen. If they do disappear, and I would like to remind the pilot named Ron Arad, this will leave a loss, a terrible loss to the families. They will never be able to close the case, to have a grave where they can breathe and close the story and try their rehabilitation. It's going to be a tragedy, a big, big tragedy. So the dead ones need to be returned as well, not just the living one. Well, the hostages crisis or catastrophe is not only about the hostages or their families. It affects practically every Israeli all over. A survey conducted on May 2025 showed that 76% of Israelis think about and concerned about the hostages on a daily basis. Half of them reported about symptoms of anxiety, depression and loss of hope. They use medication. They use kinds of, all kinds of drugs. And this is something that we see in other services as well. I think that Merav is just running one now. The Israeli society is grieving and is suffering. This disaster may have a long-term effects on the Israeli mental and physical health. We are afraid that an epidemic of psychopathology is going to occur. Researchers are talking about in between 500,000 to 1 million people that will suffer from PTSD. We need to take that into consideration and stop it as soon as possible. Children are also affected by their parents, which live in these horrible conditions psychologically. And even there's a biological and there is a biological effect as well. Mothers may change their epigenetic structure, and babies that are still not conceived, will be born in 1 or 2 years, may suffer from this phenomena as well. They may be born with a tendency to anxiety, depression, and other mental diseases. This is why we need to finish it as soon as possible. I compare our situation today to a child living under abuse. On one hand, he receives care, bedding, food from his parents, but on the other hand, he suffers violence. At some point, that child must stand up and say, enough. I believe that we must do the same as well. We must say enough. Israel, as you all know, is at the breaking point. Painful divisions are tearing us apart, and our sense of unity feels so fragile. This is not a story of black and white, and there is right and wrong in this story. We cannot ignore the conflicts within us, but at the same time, our history teaches us that we have overcome fractures before and that we can heal again. We must face these rifts and complexity with courage and honesty for the future of us and our children. Ceasefire and return of the hostages is a shared responsibility for our shared future. And when I say shared, you, American Jews or Jews all over the places, and Israelis. Ceasefire and the return of hostages are not only a humanitarian necessity. The hostages, soldiers, and civilians on both sides are enduring physical and mental trauma on a daily basis. We need to put this to an end. At the same time, Jewish communities abroad experiencing rising anti-Semitism directly linked to the ongoing war. Within American Jewry itself, painful divisions deepen, threatening the cohesion of this community. In Israel, and probably in your place as well, the crisis inflicts what we call moral injury, which is a psychological reaction to the conflict between our moral values and what is happening in the battlefield in Gaza. Merav will elaborate more about that later on. Yet, working together to end the war and bring the hostages home, we can begin to heal these wounds. A healthier, safer Israel will not only secure the lives of its citizens, but also strengthen Jewish identity and resilience around the world. Hope, the hope chapter. Take the story of Elma Abraham. Elma is an 82-year-old woman kidnapped and returned after 50 days in a life-threatening condition. After 5 months in captivity, after 5 months in ICU, she survived, and you can see what she does with her physiotherapist. Usually she smiles in the video. Let's see if she smiles. Well, that's the beautiful smile of her. And I must say, if Alma can recover, others can do too. I'm not talking about going back into what they used to be before October 7, but recovery can happen. Rehabilitation can happen. We just need to make sure it happens soon. But on the other hand, we can see these two little girls named Alma and Yuli. And they're waiting for the father. They lost him when they were 3. They were taken as hostages as well. They recently celebrated their 5th birthday. And you can just imagine what they were asking for when they had the lights over there. Then they had the candles over there. My final call is, this is our duty and also a privilege. Let's stop the war. Let's bring all of them home. By saving them, we save ourselves, our humanity, our society, and our future. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Amir. That was super emotional for me to look at this into this information, even though we kind of like know that. I would probably just add that this shared humanity that we are all looking for us as Jews around the world and with Israelis is also really important for us to mention, that we will also need, the people in Israel will need to live side by side with the people in Gaza and in the West Bank, and it's going to be a shared humanity for all of us to actually work it out and make it happen. So thank you again, Amir, so much for this presentation. And I already see questions about providing this presentation link. So we will figure it out how to share it with you.
I will share it with you as a PDF file once the session is over.
Perfect. Okay, Merav, you're next. Let's
Yes.
do the spotlight. Perfect. And I remove Amir. Okay, Merav, go ahead.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you so much for this invitation and for this partnership. Even for being together now means a lot. And I will begin with something that has to do with what you just said, of fear of watching it and feeling what you feel, although you know. And yesterday I was in Kibbutz Be'eri when there was the burial of
Idan
Weiss.
Of Ilan Weiss. I'm in very tight connections with his daughters, and I met them when 2 weeks into the war, when I was down at the Dead Sea. I came on October 9. I went down to the Dead Sea and I began organizing the therapeutic alliance, the therapeutic aid for the Kibbutz Be'eri, for the members of Kibbutz Be'eri who were evacuated. And I was sitting with a group of people who were family members of those who were defined as disconnected. Disconnected meant we don't know if they were slaughtered or kidnapped. And there were these 2 young ladies, Meital and Maayan, who allow me to share with you this because they're not my patients. They're just women I love and that I share a path together. And they were sitting there, 2 young women. Their mother and their sister were kidnapped. And their father, they didn't know if he was kidnapped or murdered. And 2 years after he was murdered, yesterday he was buried. And although I know and I preach for the importance of bringing back people to, to honest burial near their beloveds, I cannot tell you how much I was moved. I cried. I felt relieved and so sad for what we are dealing with here in Israel. And it is so devastating. And it's also devastating at the same time. And from the same reasons, it's devastating to see the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We are all kidnapped into a dystopic state, a dystopic situation. Abnormality is the new normality, and days go by and we forget the most basic rights of people to bury. The Maayan, his daughter, said, she was crying, she was sobbing. She said, I'm preparing this hesped, this, how do you say hesped in English?
Eulogy.
Eulogy. I'm preparing this eulogy for months, and I'm in the most strange situation that a daughter is praying to bury her father. It's not supposed to be this way. So I'm beginning with that to say that we are in a most extreme situation, and we need to be alert not to fall into extreme solutions or easy solutions regarding this situation, and to keep complexity as much as we can, and remembering Ma'ayan and Meital on the one hand, and remembering the humanitarian crisis in Gaza on the same hand, on the hand of values, on the hand of the wish for human rights and democracy and liberal democracy, and living for all human creatures around the world. And now I present myself. That's how much I was moved by yesterday. And when you said it meant something to me, although I know I felt like sharing this with you. So I'm Merav Roth. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a psychoanalyst. And as I said, on the first week, I was down at the Dead Sea to establish this therapeutic organization for the Kibbutz Be'eri, who I still accompany. And at the same week, we established 3 psychoanalysts. We established FLM, First Line Med, which gives already for almost 2 years now, gives free of charge 3 years of therapy to all the survivors of the massacre, bereaved family members, families of the hostages, and we work with released hostages. And I work with released hostages both from the first agreement and from the second agreement. And I must say that the psychological injuries that come alongside the physiological injuries that Amir just presented are very far-reaching, both in captivity, of course, and I will name them very shortly, after captivity, for the families of the abductees, of the hostages, but also for the general society of Israel, and I think also for the general society of Am Israel, of the Israeli people around the world. And I will present them very, very shortly, and then go into them a bit more. So the first thing that we hear from the hostages when they come out is about, it's not about, we see what we call the dissociative shock. The whole system, the state, the psychological state of numbness, of disconnection, of disorientation, of what we call derealization, like you don't really know who you are, where you are, you don't experience time as other people experience time. It's both very long and slow, and very fast, and extremely confused. And they feel, during captivity, of course, they feel extreme learned helplessness. What we call learned helplessness means whatever I do doesn't help. But also we, as the Israeli society, feel learned helplessness because we try to bring them home, and we cannot. We cannot convince our own government to bring them out from Gaza. And our demonstrations every week, and our work in all over Israel doesn't help, or it helps not good enough. So learned helplessness is very devastating, because the system begins to deteriorate, to collapse into a passive state. And in captivity, it's very easy to collapse into a passive state, because you're not allowed to choose anything. The freedom of choice is taken away completely from you. You're not allowed to choose when to go to the toilets, if there are toilets, when to eat, when to sleep, when there will be light, when there will be darkness. Everything is taken away from you. But we, from the outside, and psychoanalytically, it's very clear, we identify with what you're going through. And we are like I will give you the analogy that I have in my mind. It's like a family that one kid was kidnapped by a crazy neighbor, a murderous neighbor, into the basement. And the kids go to their parents shouting and saying, they took our brother, he's in the basement and he's torturing him. And he's sending us even films of him torturing him. And we know he killed other children and our brother is with him. And the parents tell us, yeah, we know it's very, very important. We will take him out very soon. And the days go by and the weeks go by and the months go by and almost 2 years went by and they're still in captivity. So what happens to the brothers and sisters, and it's not only the families of the hostages, it's the whole Israeli society, and I think the whole Jewish society around the world, is that if we know it and if we don't know it, if we are involved consciously or we just sleep and dream terrible nightmares and we don't know why, we are all identifying at this or other level with this torture. And we feel so helpless. And we feel that we lose our identity. We don't know who we are anymore. Is this the country that I called my country? Is this the state of the humankind in anywhere? We are so confused. And when we take now, we have now a big project of 13 mental health organizations, and we collect data. And what we see from the collective data is that there is a collective, not only identity crisis, but also mental health crisis, which goes from wall to wall. It's a broad mental health crisis. I will give you just a few data points to figure it out. So PTSD diagnoses have doubled. Hotlines report a 6-fold increase in calls. There used to be 1,000 calls every month. There are 6,000 calls every month now to hotlines that give quick advice or therapy. 1 in 4 Israelis is now at risk of problematic substance use and abuse. And we also have information about Israelis abroad. And there is an increase also in substance use abroad, of medication against depression, of medication against anxiety, of medication that helps people to sleep because they have sleep disorders. And the confusion is immense, and confusion is very, it's hurting our capacity to contain the situation, to think clearly about the situation, and to feel sovereign, to feel that we can fight against this situation. The more the days go by, the more that's how we feel. And I think what we need to avoid there is easy, destructive answers to very difficult questions. And I want to share with you 3 confusions that I think we must resist. And we talk to you because we need you. We need you as our ambassadors. We need you to speak out what we know from within and we want to share with you. And one confusion that I think in Israel we don't have, and I think there is a big confusion, and I think there is a big confusion outside, is between the Israeli government and the Israeli society.
Het is bovendien een hoop geleuter. Dus ik denk dat ik ermee stop.
One of the translators need to mute, I think. The confusion between the Israeli government, there was a rally where I spoke and I said, please stop confusing us with the Israeli government, because, and it doesn't matter what is your political notions and ideas, and more than 60% of the Israeli society time and again say in polls that they want to stop the war, they want to bring the hostages home, which will lead to the ending of this devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza, again and again and again. So the Israeli society is fighting against the situation. And we don't feel that we are heard enough outside of the borders of Israel. And we need to be heard, because for me, I need your support. I need your support in order to fight for our shared values of liberal democracy, of human rights, of humanitarian rights to each individual in the world, in Israel, in Gaza. The other confusion that I think we all the time need to translate is between extremists and moderates. Extremists dominate the headlines, but they are not the majority. And not in Israel, not in Gaza, and not in the United States, and not in Argentina. The extremists are not the majority. But when the world cannot tell them apart from the moderates, then the moderates are crushed twice, because once they are crushed by the extremists from within, and then again by being blamed as if they were the extremists themselves. So it enlarges loneliness and helplessness in a place where support would lead to the broadening of sovereignty for the people who will fight for shared values with the others. And I think one more confusion is between Hamas and the Palestinians, and this is a confusion that is both in Israel and outside of Israel. The Palestinian people, the harmless Palestinian children and women and men, always they say women and children, I don't know why men are as important, women, men and children who die for vain in a terrible war are not Hamas, but there is also Hamas, and the Palestinians are innocent victims both of this terrible war. The policy of the Israeli government is not doing all that it needs to do in order to give all the humanitarian aid possible, which would be the smartest thing and the most humane and valuable thing from all perspective. But also Hamas victimize their own people because the messianic religious extreme ideas sacrifice people for land and for God. And if you ask me, the land would not want that, and God would not want that. But this is a confusion, that they are not the same, not the Palestinians and Hamas, not the Israelis and the Israeli government. What we need to look for is shared values. Shared values is always the answer. And we have, I think, a broad population around the world of people, moderate people with shared values for liberal democracy and peace and foreseeing the other. And we need to unite. And I have no easy solutions for how we do it, but this meeting is for us to do it right now. So what can be done? What can be done? I will say, and I will shortly stop, I will say that when the tablets were broken, God did not say to Moses, I will rewrite them, which would be easy for him, like AI, right? God would do this and they would be written again. He said, you write them again. So I think we all need to rewrite our 10 commandments. We need to concentrate on our values and find everyone around the world who share with us our values and unite in our extreme conviction that there is only one way to win this war, which would be to rewrite our amendments, to go back into ואהבת לרעך כמוך. And when I say ואהבת לרעך כמוך, I remember that the other is like me. And that's why I want to love him as I love myself. because he is like me. Every other is like me. And just two last things, very short. One is that in my room, right here beside me in my office, sat a patient of mine who waited for her husband to come back from captivity 1 year and 6 months with children at home. And when he came back, when he was released, one day she sat here and she answered the phone, and I could hear very vaguely his voice, and she said, "How are you?" And he answered something, and I burst into tears. And that's all we want. We want people to have the right to live normal lives. That's what we are fighting for. And the second, when we do this, there is a hand. I will take it down afterwards. And the second thing I want to say is that I'm a second generation to a Holocaust survivor. And first of all, I have two commands, two very clear directions by him. One is that we need to defend ourselves, and we need the Israeli state to be, because he didn't have one in Budapest, and he lost his father in Budapest. And the other was never to turn away from people who are suffering by some kind of unjust cruelty. And it's very hard to combine these two directions, but we have to somehow take them both into account. But if we go too extremely against one of them, we will lose the Israeli state. It's a serious situation here. And that's why we need your support and we need our partnership, because I think around the world, it's almost a ticket, a social ticket now to be anti-Israeli. And that's very dangerous. So we need to fight together against every policy in Israel that leads to corruption or to an endless war, etc. But we also need to remember that my father was perished in Mauthausen 2 weeks before the camp was released. And we have hostages in captivity who are not released yet. And we have a state that we do need to cherish and to work for its survival. So we need to keep our tensions of values and of identity together, and to fight together for peace and for the ending of this craziness and this topic state. Thank you.
Thank you, Merav. Thank you so much. I'm adding also Amir, and I'll start to ask you a couple of questions. And I remind everyone that the Slido is open, so please add your question and vote for other questions so we know what's really on your mind. But I want to take you, both of you, to a place where, I mean, like in many ways, we see all the data and all the information that 80% of Israelis wants to end the war, wants to bring back the hostages, even in the cost, which I don't understand, never says the cost of ending the war. Ending the war should not be a cost. And still you find yourself like going to the streets. On the last 2 weeks, we saw a couple of hundreds of thousands finally going out. How does people feel about the idea that you speak up so loudly in many ways, and there is no one responding back from the government? And I'm asking it also if you can give this perspective, because again, obviously we have our own government here in America that doesn't listen to their people, but from a Jewish perspective, like Jewish world, I mean, like we see it from here also, like our, if you call it the Jewish leadership in America, they don't speak up, even though the majority want the end of the war. So we see people that say like, oh, I mean, like going with the pin, but they will never say anything about ending the war unless the government of Israel wants to end the war. So how do you handle that dissonance between the ask of the people comparing to the government disregard what people want to think or want to say?
I think we have a very, very complicated situation where the government is actually held by extremists, and it cannot listen to the people. If you look at the polls, it was upside down because there were many more איך אומרים שלמפלגה יש אלקטורט?
The constituent of the party, or
Yes, was
the mandate of the party, yeah.
Yes, was the other way around from now. The government was 68 at one point, and it's now the other way around. So it does influence the situation, but as long as the government is held by extremists and does not allow any change to happen, we are keeping the law, and the opposition is keeping the law, then you are helpless. But you need to look at the polls and see that it doesn't mean that the situation doesn't change. And as you said, it's hundreds and thousands of people every Saturday. I want my Saturdays back. It's not 2 years, it's more 3.5 years. Hundreds and thousands of people are going out to the streets. They don't stop. It's amazing. I think the human resilience is also amazing here. So we need to see that, and I think it gives hope that we will not let go.
But Merav, do you see, just a second, Amir, do you see that influencing more people to go out when they see others goes out? Because that's, in a way, and maybe Amir, you want to add on that. I mean, sometimes it's frustrating to see that. I mean, like, again, even in my family or close friends, you see them understanding the need of going. I mean, that the hostages are suffering and the people are suffering, and they still kind of like can't bring themselves to go out. Amir, maybe you want to add on that. Amir?
I think that I tend to be more optimistic about this issue.
Okay.
Because it's not that the government is not responding or doesn't listen or doesn't understand what's going on. After August last year, August 31st, where the 6 young people were murdered, there were about 700,000 people in the streets. And the next thing the government did was publishing a false article in a German newspaper, trying to convince us that Hamas is the only one to blame in this grave situation. Okay? And this was due to the pressure that was put on the government. I believe that we don't put enough pressure, but should we bring out or take out more people to the streets and speak louder, I believe that this will have an effect on the government. We need to convince everyone to go out. We need to convince everyone to turn active. Otherwise, it will never happen. So it's a matter of mass or numbers, if you want to go into a language. But I think that something changes. It's not they're doing what they want to. Let's go back into the political crisis that they raised, or the situation when they tried to change the legislative state here in Israel. Okay, so many people came out, just like Merav said, every Saturday. Okay, and it never happened. At the end of the day, they changed here and there, but it never happened. So I think that I tend to be today more optimistic. It may change tomorrow, I don't promise. Okay, but by speaking out loud and conveying our opinions out there in the streets, and streets are not just physical streets, but social media as well, publications as well, traditional media as well. These are the streets for me. I think that if we speak up on those pipes, we can really change the government actions eventually and turn the whole thing around.
Yeah, and I mean, and I would add on that. I mean, like, and I hear also people saying it on the street in Israel that if we were not, so there is two values for these people going on the streets. One is it gives enormous hope for those who are still in captivity. They see us, they hear us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, again, I mean, like, hope. I mean, unfortunately, they're not back yet, but it definitely gives them hope when they see that. So that's one. I also added a link to the YouTube about the build document you were speaking about, Amir, that we translated, so you can watch it. And the other thing is, I mean, and I truly believe that I think that if people were not on the streets here and putting no pressure on the governments, we might not have seen the second deal happening as well. So again, this is a pressure that definitely helps. There is a question that we didn't reflect on in your discussion, but you probably can talk about it now, is that we see contradicting data in many ways about ending the war and bring them home. And this, on the other side, the people in Israel doesn't show care about what's happening behind on the Gaza field. Like 70% or more from the last Accord survey was saying that there might not be innocent people in Gaza, that everyone is to blame. Do you think that this is a contradiction that mentally impacting Israelis, and this is part of the trauma? This is part of, I mean, like, is it something you can understand, or I mean, it's something that you know that you go on the streets with the same people who believe that there are no innocent in Gaza, like they are going on the same streets with you, right? I mean, there's so many of them. How do you find this contradiction from I mean, in connection to the collective trauma?
I think the situation is so complicated because we are in a war. And, you know, for you say, when you say the Israeli army, for us, the Israeli army is our children, and they are now in the war. And I must tell you, I truly, deeply believe that most of our children don't kill for fun. They don't kill children for fun. That is not true. I'm sure there are military crimes, as in wars. And I'm sure that the policy is terrible and it causes a terrible humanitarian crisis, but it is not equal to saying that the Israeli army is killing for fun, babies for fun. That is not true. It's our children. We know them. We know their values. And it's the same with saying that people here say that they are all innocent. The people that I know don't say that. And they are crying for every child in Gaza that died. And again, I said, and the woman and the man. So it's the picture is more complex, but at the same time, there is rage. And there is victims of a massacre that do have enormous rage and fantasies of vengeance that we need to work every day, every moment against. And we do that. We do that because this is a part of the moral injury here. The moral injury is for every crime that is committed against our people and against the Gazan people. Moral injury is being a bystander in human crimes against humanity, wherever. So it's so complex to hold all the emotions together. Not to tell the children, if you tell a soldier that is going to the army, think about every person you meet, maybe he is innocent. You confuse him enormously and you're afraid that he will die because now he will not be able to defend himself. It's very complex. I think the problem is holding complexity. And that's when we fall into splitting that says all the Israelis don't care and want to kill Gazan, the Palestinian children. No, that is not true. The picture is extremely complex.
Okay. Mir?
And let me add on that. I totally agree with Mirav that the situation is extremely complex and we need to untie a little bit this complexity. We need to understand that this situation is a grave situation. And by ending the war, bringing all hostages home, going into a kind of an agreement, political agreement, we can resolve the situation. So we won't need to put people in Gaza in hunger anymore. We won't need to shoot at them. We won't need to be victimized ourselves by all kinds of actions. And the only people who are not agreeing upon that are the governments on both sides or the regimes on both sides. Okay, so once this situation is resolved, and this is why I'm going into stopping the war, ceasefire, ending the war. I have no other terms in English to express my call. And once the war is over, everyone will be better. and conflicts are going to be resolved. So this is the interest of each and every humanitarian person on this globe, on this earth, and it's your interest as well as mine, as well as people who do not watch this video. And even those who are convinced that they're against it, it's their interest as well. Their kids'
So
interest.
I would want to take this as an opportunity to ask the people on the call to use this call and the recording and others when you go to the high holidays and people are asking, like, how can you change the way Israel is being looked at right now? And again, I mean, like, I think that what Merav is saying and what we are saying and the way we are taking people to the streets with the Israeli flag on one hand and the end of the war and bring them home on the other hand, and showing around that, again, we are not our government. We also, both Israeli and Zionist Jews and allies. And that is up to us to show that. And I mean, also bring up the voices that are, again, yesterday, September 1st, thousands of high schoolers, seniors going to the streets and speaking up. I mean, like, again, we could just wish to see those type of kids and on the streets here fighting for democracy, for example, or for human rights or others. These are the voices we need to raise and we need to show, and that's answering many of the questions that were in the chat. But what can we do more to separate the government from Israelis? And again, it's really, really complicated, and it's up to us. Before we close the Zoom, to be on time and to respectful to the translators that I know that are really working hard. So Yamit and Miriam, thank you so much for that. There is one song, Amir, hold on. There is noise.
Can I say one sentence before the song?
Yes, of course. I just give you a second, Merav. I want to just make sure that you are aware that we will try to take to the streets on September 14th in different cities around the country with this message of end the war, bring them home, and surge aid. So connect to your chapters and make sure you are aware of that. And the second one is, before everyone is leaving, that next week we'll have MK Gilad Kariv with us for Rosh Hashanah toast and Q&A. So Merav, please go ahead.
So I have a short request. FLM, we are working with first, second, and third circle of the families of the hostages, of the bereaved families, and with the survivors of the massacre. And we collect donations all the time from in Israel and around the world in order to broaden as much as possible our treatments. So we will send to you our one-pager, and if you know an organization that can help, it will help many people. And the other is an expression by Rabbi Heschel, who walked with Martin Luther King to Montgomery to free people. And when he went back to his hotel, he wrote in his diary, "Today my feet were praying." And this is an expression I love, and I want to say we need to pray with our feet. We need to express ourselves, as you said, to voice ourselves in order for change to come. Not to think that the situation is desperate. To be like Martin Luther King and like Rabbi Heschel. Thank you.
Thank you, Merav.
I'd like to conclude this very important session by telling you or introducing you to Yuval Rafael. Yuval is a 24-year-old Israeli singer, survived the October 7 Nova Festival, music festival, massacre by hiding under bodies for 8 hours. She was recently interviewed, and she says she still feels those bodies as a trauma, obviously. And after this trauma, she participated in a TV talent show and was later elected to represent Israel at the Eurovision Song Contest in 2025 with her song, New Day Will Rise. And this song and this story became a symbol of resilience and hope. And I would like you to watch this with us.
And even if you say goodbye, you'll never goodbye. You'll always be around to lift me up and take me high. Keep my feet close to the ground. Are you proud of me tonight? Dreams are coming true. I choose the light, nothing to lose. If I lose you, new day will rise. Life will go on. Everyone cries. Don't cry alone. Darkness will fade. All the pain will go by. But we will stay. Even if you say goodbye. Même si tu dis adieu, tu ne partiras jamais. T'es l'arc-en-ciel dans mon ciel bleu. Mes couleurs dans le cri et on se souhaite sous un ciel d'art, un rayon de ma journée. La seule chanson que mon piano peut jouer. New day will rise, life will go on. Everyone cries, don't cry alone. Darkness will fade, all the pain will go by, but we will stay, even if you say, new day will rise, life will go on. Everyone cries, don't cry alone. Darkness will fade, all the pain will go by, but you will stay, the love of my life. מים רבים לא יכבו את האהבה ונהרות לא ישטפו. New day will rise. Everyone cries, don't cry alone. Darkness will fade, all the pain will go by, but we will stay. Even if you say goodbye, a new day will rise. New day will rise. Thank you, Europe! עם ישראל חי!
Yeah, definitely moving. And
Depends on us.
second, Amir, we couldn't hear you. Can you say it again?
I said that a new day will rise. We
A
just
new day
need to
will
believe in
rise.
it.
And speaking
act for
on the power of music and musician, I just shared Bono's words from 14 weeks ago already about the need to get rid of the extremists from in our government and in Gaza and to bring new words. So Amir and Merav and Daphna and Adva that help us to set it up, and Miriam and Yamit for translation. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone who've
And to
been.
you, Ophir.
And
Thank
this
you.
recording will be available on the channel on the YouTube, and we will share every links we put here. So new day will rise, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shana tova. Bye bye.
Shana Tova.